When you're creating, time stops. You have a goal and a purpose. It's more than a task, it's an act of discovery. It requires looking at the world in new ways and observing life. It takes boldness to start and courage to stay open and searching for the missing pieces, seeing things not just as they are, but as they could be. There are mistakes. There are obstacles along the way. But without them, beauty and genius would not exist. When you get there, when you find the answer, that feeling is what feeds us and sends us on our next journey. Creativity is more than art. It's the source of everything amazing in our world. And our world needs more amazing. Be creative.
Wow. Take a long pause to think about that video. Watch it again if you need to. I hope that all of you saw a part of yourselves in that video. It's a really good reminder of exactly why we're here today, to talk about creative and critical thinking. So welcome to seminar number 8. My name is Amy Jo Edwards, and we're going to talk about the science behind creativity and critical thinking and how to cultivate that into boosting your own potential. I'm talking to every single one of you here. I'm talking to all the music and recording students, all the film and television students, the art and design students, the game students, the media and communication students, creative writing, business, sports students, every single one of you. Our agenda today is to do a very quick little icebreaker just to see if you are more left-brained or right-brained, to see if you're more a creative or a critical thinker by nature. Then we're going to talk about the science behind creativity. Then we're going to talk about the science behind critical thinking. And then we're going to take everything that we've learned, how to boost creativity and how to boost critical thinking, and we're going to combine it together into an activity that will help you in becoming more productive after the seminar. In order to receive credit for the seminar and for me to know that you did watch the entire seminar and did the activities, I'm going to have you submit a 3-paragraph seminar summary. In the very top right corner, I want you to write your student name and your student ID number. You're going to put for the title, seminar number 8, Creativity and Critical Thinking, just centered in the top. And then you're going to have 3 paragraphs. And don't worry about what to write about for the paragraphs, because I will actually tell you throughout the seminar. So as long as you're paying attention and following along, you will be able to hear exactly what you should write about at that time. It's probably a good idea to go ahead and pause this video right now to set up your Word document, and then you can write as you go, or you'll just have it ready to go at the very end when you are ready to write.
I'd like you to clasp your hands together and keep them in that position for a moment. Some researchers see the brain as having 2 general modes. In one mode, often called right-brained, it's more intuitive, visual, and creative. In the other, often called left-brained, it's more logical, sequential, and analytical. All of us work in both modes, but naturally tend towards one or the other. According to the theory, if your right thumb is on top of your left thumb, then you tend to be a so-called left-brainer, and so more likely to be verbal and analytical. If your left thumb is on top of your right thumb, then you tend to be a so-called right-brainer, and more likely to excel in visual, creative, and intuitive tasks. So if you want to gain a fun insight into somebody, maybe you should ask them to put their hands together.
That is just kind of a fun little icebreaker and an insight to if you are more left-brained or right-brained. And you might already know, just knowing the facts about what left brain and right brain is. Your left brain is analytical thought, logic, language, and science and math, where your right brain tends to be more holistic thought, intuition, creativity, and art and music. Some of us are dominant in one area or another, and some of us just find that wonder in the middle where we can not only take our raw talent, but also our skill sets to create wonderful things. So let's get started right away with some fun facts about the science of creativity. In the middle here in our little Venn diagram, where science and art intersect, it says wonder. I think that's a pretty cool and accurate word for the result of when creativity and critical thinkers do team up together. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. Not just if you're a creative person making you more creative, or if you are an analytical left brain person making you more of a critical thinker. I want you all to work on both of these skill sets so that we can create the wonder in everything that we do. Let's talk about the types of people that are creative. If you were to describe maybe yourself, or maybe a friend or someone that you know that's very creative, think about the words that you would use to describe them. Maybe you would say they're kind of crazy, or they think outside the box, or they're very observant of the world, of things that are going on around them. There are a lot of different ways we can describe creative people, and I want us to take a quick look at our friend here in the video to see what I might be talking about.
I'm always on the lookout for things to try and inspire me. I'm desperate for inspiration to come up with a new idea. You know, I was thinking, would it be strange if what you heard in your right ear was sounds that came from that direction over there? Toothbrush maracas, an umbrella with plant pots, teacup cooling fan. This ball is actually the Battle of Waterloo. It's half French, half British, soldiers melted. If I did wear this more regularly than I do, you know, would my brain fix it, you know, and it would just become normal. You put your fruit in, you know, whatever you want, peaches, pears, bananas, whatever. Put that in, a bit of yogurt, and then you zip it up, and then you kick this football around the field. Take out the bag and pour a very nice smoothie drink, you know, and people assume that I was just having fun playing football with myself, but actually I was making a drink. I think I was perfectly normal as a child. My dad thinks I wasn't shy, but I was quiet, definitely. Quiet, shy children do a lot of work in their heads, you know. They're thinking a lot. They're observing a lot. So I suppose maybe as a child, the creativity was there, just didn't have an outlet. I had no way of expressing it beyond being in my head.
Well, I couldn't really understand it. It was sort of crazy, you know, crazy ideas, but that's how Dominic is, isn't he? Just these wonderful ideas.
I wouldn't call them crazy. I would say they're more imaginative.
Well, that's what I mean.
And just off the wall, which I've always said that's life, rather than walk on this straight, just go straight off the wall and do things. I've always encouraged him to do that. And he's seen it demonstrated. And it comes out in his thinking and in his work. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that could be the plate like that. And maybe there's a listening horn here. The thing about living in London is that you don't see much wildlife. Well, you actually see foxes occasionally on the street, surprisingly. So I was thinking of doing something where I try to get in contact with the wildlife. Just anything, doesn't matter.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Okay, wait a minute. Keep on going.
Hi, well,
Such a thing as bird watching, but what about bird listening?
This is what I'd hoped that Dominic would take over from me. Instead of going to London and going into art. But the boy has become a great disappointment because there's no one to hand the business on. I can't understand why he doesn't want to come here and work.
I hadn't made anything for a while. And also, I'd sort of stopped thinking of many ideas. I'd hit some sort of creative block. And so I wanted to put like pressure on myself to be creative. And so this was this idea I had was to challenge myself to come up with something creative every day for 30 days in a row and photograph it, video it and put it on my blog. More and more people were following it, looking forward to what am I coming up to the next day, which like put this more pressure on. So every morning I would wake up in this cold sweat thinking, what am I going to do? And you're making decisions really quickly, which is good because it's like getting in contact with your heart and your instincts rather than this sort of analytical thinking, is it right? Is it the right thing to do? Having a playful approach helps me be creative, which is lucky because it's quite exciting and I enjoy the playfulness and just doing things, even though they're completely ridiculous sometimes. So what? Let's do the ridiculous. And by doing the ridiculous, something else might come of it. Yeah, this one is unrequited handshake. So there's a little businessman with his hand out, going around the second hand to shake hands, and there's another little businessman standing on the minute hand with his arms folded as the man on the minute hand goes past the man with the folded arms. Because he never shakes hands, it's quite a sad piece. I've always had this feeling of like time's running out. Like we only get a certain amount of time on the earth. And, you know, you've got to contribute something. I feel I should do as much as I possibly can before I've gone.
So thinking back to what we were talking about before we watched our friend here, how would you describe a creative person? Watching someone that is very creative might be very helpful in doing that. As you see from watching him, like I said, he's very much a thinker of outside the box, trying to come up with new and inventive ways to do things. Really pushes himself, really pays attention to the outside world, really doesn't care what other people think about what he's doing, and that gives him a lot more playful freedom in what he does. He is very playful as well. And the words that we can use to describe him are, creative, thinking outside the box, very inventive, very imaginative. I love that the dad says that he's not crazy. He's just very imaginative, and that's how we might describe a lot of ourselves in being creative. So there are a lot of good lessons to learn from this, definitely believing in yourself and not caring so much what other people are thinking about what you're doing or creating will help you be more creative. Trying to come up with as many solutions to as one problem as you possibly can think of. It may not be the right solution, so what? Maybe by doing the ridiculous things, we can come up with the perfect solution or the perfect way to solve a problem. Another important thing I think to point out is also maybe how you became a creative person. In our film, we learned that he was a very shy and quiet child, and very shy, quiet children do a lot of thinking in their heads, which I think is very true for a lot of creative people when they are younger. Research also shows that those who feel or maybe had felt when you were younger, maybe in school, socially rejected, often end up as creative people, as long as you have a strong sense of yourself, so good self-compassion. People who feel entitled may also feel more creative because being seen as entitled and creative gives you more room to break with convention and kind of break out into the spotlight, which is not a bad thing. It just means that you're more willing to be seen and heard, or maybe just more willing to be different. Your very first seminar summary for paragraph number 1 is going to be very simple. I just want you to write if you are more left-brained or more right-brained. Why do you think you are maybe more creative, or maybe you're more of a critical thinker, and maybe how you became to be that way. It might be a good idea to even pause this video right now to go ahead and write your first paragraph. If you are creative and feeling maybe a block, there are ways to unleash your creativity. You can try meditation. Research shows that even people who have never meditated before can benefit from 25 minutes of meditation. This works because you are receptive to thoughts and sensations that come up during meditation. That's the key. Despite what you may have heard, meditation does not involve joining a group, paying any fees, wearing any special outfits, sitting in a funny position, or believing in anything in particular. It is simple, secular, scientifically developed exercise for your brain. You don't have to do any of this yet, but just so you know, here are the steps. Sit with your back straight and your eyes closed. Notice the feeling of your breath coming in or coming out. Focus on your breath with intention. As soon as you try to do this, your mind is going to go nuts. You're going to start thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. Why did I say that dumb thing to my boss? And that's fine. The whole game is to notice when you are lost and just start over. And you're going to have to start over and over and over again. Take it from me. And every time you do that, it's like a bicep curl for your brain. It's also a radical act of breaking a lifetime habit of walking around in a fog of projection and rumination, and you're actually focusing on what's going on right now. Try it for 5 or 25 minutes. Also, just getting up and getting out of your chair may lead to more creativity than sitting does. A lot of companies now are starting to do what's called walking meetings. And a 2014 study found that going for a walk helps to generate free-flowing, novel ideas, as opposed to fostering focused concentration. So if you're sitting alone in a room, staring at your computer, just simply not coming up with any ideas and maybe having a blank wall, maybe try to get up and go outside and go for a walk. Other ways to get outside, you can study in the park, you can walk to school or work, or even to the Red Box down the street. Something very simple to get you outside. Join a walking group. Ditch the treadmill if you have a choice to go outside. When you take a walk, notice things. Slow down. Notice reflections in puddles, contrast of colors and complementary colors in plants, in nature. Simply just be more observant of the things around you. Lie on your back and watch the clouds go by to clear your mind. Walk barefoot outside. These are all very good practices to get you even more deep in concentration and creativity on your walk. Some other scientifically proven tips about creativity are things like high ceilings. They can promote abstract thinking, while low ceilings are better for working on concrete tasks. Maybe this will change where you move around in your house, or maybe where you choose to go study, such as a library, while you're working on assignments. Dimmer lights help people to work more creatively. The darkness gives them the feeling that they are less constrained. So think about the lighting in maybe a music studio or even a coffee shop. A messy desk may foster creative thinking. Good news for you if you're looking at your desk right now, feeling a little guilty about the papers, the wrappers, the notes and cups and things lying about. A moderate level of ambient noise, so about 70 decibels for all of you music engineers, seems to facilitate creative thinking. Interestingly enough, for the rest of us, that's about the level of a typical coffee shop. And then also brainstorm in the park, because the color green encourages creative thinking, and we already talked about how wonderful it is for you to get up and go outside. Let's switch gears here from the science of creative thinking to the science of critical thinking. Critical thinkers are the people that think of every possible outcome in a picture. So at the beginning of the seminar, we decided if we were right-brained or left-brained. So if you're more of a logical thinker, a lot of this is going to apply to you in your very analytical processing type of brain. Employers complain that colleges aren't producing graduates with critical thinking skills. That's very critical, pun on words. But what exactly is that? What are they asking for when they have you come in for a job interview and they say, do you have critical thinking skills? Critical thinking is not only coming up with several solutions to a problem, but it's also applying what you've learned enough that you can recommend change at your job. You can't just memorize something, you have to know how to actually do it and how to actually apply it. So think of the traditional example of a pilot going to pilot school and only reading books about how to fly a plane, but never going out and actually flying the plane. You don't want to be the first passenger on that plane. And job employers don't want to hire people that have only read about how to do things and haven't actually done them. How many of you try to do things that you're learning in your classes on your own, out in your own free time? Maybe you're working on your own movie or you're making your own game. Apply what you've learned to your own projects and your own dreams. If you aren't, then you could be really missing out on capitalizing on a resource here that you haven't tapped into yet. One component of critical thinking is called divergent thinking. So let's take a look at a divergent thinker. Heather Berlin looked into why Jon Stewart is so funny. He makes unexpected and novel connections, which is known as divergent thinking. I happen to think Jon Stewart is very funny, and I admire many smart, witty comedians that can be funny on command. His medial prefrontal cortex is cranking. That's the part of the brain that generates new ideas to unrelated stimuli. On the other hand, his dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex is turned down. That's the part of the brain that is concerned with self-awareness and what other people are thinking. In summary, he can be funny on command without saying anything to prompt him, whereas you may need to see something on a walk or in a store to brainstorm ideas, and you may care about what people think that you have to say is silly. But what Jon Stewart is doing here is he's also not only not needing stimuli, but he's also not really caring what other people are thinking, and that's what makes him so divergent. Unlike the movie and book series, divergent thinking actually refers to ways of solving problems wherein a variety of possible solutions are proposed in an effort to find one that works. This is completely different from convergent thinking, which relies on focusing on a decided number of solutions rather than proposing multiple solutions. So divergent thinking takes its name from the idea that limitless number of sometimes even unrelated solutions can be generated in an effort to find the best one. Remember our friend in the creative thinking video that we watched earlier? he said, let's try everything that we can possibly think of. Because though those things we try may not be the solution to the problem, one of the things that we try most likely will be the solution to the problem. So the creative process doesn't always take you directly to the best solution, but by encouraging a variety of possible solutions, new ideas are more likely to emerge. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. So let's actually try it. This might sort it out and make it a little bit more relatable. What I want you to do for paragraph number 2, I want you to pull up your Word document, and we're going to do a word bubble kind of idea formulating practice of divergent thinking. So I want in your second paragraph for you to write down paperclip. And I want you to time yourself. And for 2 minutes, so maybe open your phone and set a timer on for 2 minutes. I want you to think of as many possible uses for a paperclip that you could think of in 2 minutes time. So for example, you can use a paperclip as a hair clip, or you can use it to take a cherry pit out of a cherry. You guys get the idea. So go ahead and pause the video right now, take 2 minutes, think of as many things as you can to use a paperclip for. So let's see how you did. Most people can think of between 10 to 15 uses for a paperclip. People who are really divergent can think of between 50 to 100. When a group of kids did this at age 5, they had more uses for a paperclip, and they did this again at age 10. Think about why that might be. If you're thinking it's because they were less inhibited and more creative at age 5, you're right. It is kind of sad but true that kids are more creative at age 5 than 10 because somewhere along the way they're told that you don't do things this way, or that's childish, or that's stupid, and they begin to lose not only confidence and compassion but also creativity. Think about our friend who was an extraordinary example of a creative person in the video that we watched earlier. He didn't care what people thought or if they judged him for being silly or childish. He just let himself be freed by his creativity. It's rather sad to think about how our creative capacity can be suppressed because we care so much about what others think. Balancing logic and emotion is a huge part in critical thinking, and it's something we all have to work on. This is where our thoughts get kind of tricky. Logic says reasoning, ideas, and proof and validity, versus emotion, which is sympathy, anger, gratitude, guilt, love, disgust, fear, surprise, on and on. Think of all the emoticons that you can use. When we're engaged to solve a problem, do we solve things emotionally or logically when we're critically thinking? For example, if I put you all in a room to work together to solve a question of should the death penalty should be abolished, or even something on a lighter topic like what's better, a Mac or a PC, your heart instantly gets a reaction out of you. And when you're logically examining all the facts there can be, not only is there an internal struggle, but a very powerful and confrontational struggle to come to an agreement. And let's say your workplace, your office, your group discussion forums online, your classes, your go-to trainings. This is human nature and it happens all the time. And we think with emotion and not logically more than we may think. Think of the bigger picture, especially in a work situation. Your emotions are a huge part of you and a huge part of how you process. But try to calm down and slow down when you're in a heated or critical thinking debate or group project or some kind of situation, and assess the situation rationally. Only then can you see the bigger picture, and only then can you be a fantastic critical thinker in the workplace. We've already talked a little bit along the way about boosting your creative and critical thinking capacities, but here are some also just a couple extra tips. You can learn about something completely unfamiliar. Watch a documentary about the Vikings or some random documentary on Netflix, or take a class you would have never taken before, or go see a movie or an art festival you never would have attended. Each week, make it a goal to talk to at least 3 people who are very different from you. This can be at work, this can be in your class, this can be online. And also do more of the paperclip idea generation that we practice, but use different objects. Pick up a hairbrush, a fork, something lying around on your messy desk, and try to think of as many uses for that object that you can possibly think of. The more you do it, the more you're going to think of over time, and you're going to become more divergent and creative and a critical thinker. For our final paragraph number 3, I've listed some tips in negative attitudes and positive attitudes here to boosting creativity. I want you to read through the negative attitudes that block creativity and the positive attitudes that boost creativity. And I want you to read through on this slide the negative attitudes that prevent critical thinking and the positive attitudes and habits that will boost critical thinking. Then I want for you to open your Word document, and in paragraph number 3, I want you to write how are you going to boost your critical thinking and how are you going to boost your creative thinking using these attitudes and tips. So you can pause the video and look at each of these slides and pick what you'd like to talk about. It doesn't have to be very long, as long as I know you've learned something valuable from today. And if you have any questions at all, please email me at success@fullsail.com. Again, my name is Amy Jo Edwards. I work in the Student Success Department. Thank you so much for attending the seminar today. There are a lot of other great seminars. Please check the other ones out to complete your 5 seminars for the 10 GPA points. And if you have any questions about any of the material at all that I've used, or if you would like more material, or if you're confused about anything and you just want to ask questions, please email me. I'm more than happy to talk to you. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day.